Hey everybody, Upstairs to the Right Music, Mike McWilliams, your host. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'd like to put forward a couple of definitions in order to set the stage for today's show. The first definition is what a tube amplifier is. A tube amplifier is a type of electronic amplification device that powers its signal through tubes. As opposed to, of course, a solid-state amplifier which uses transistors. The second definition that I'd like to put forward is an insane guitar player with gas. An insane guitar player with gas, gear acquisition syndrome, is somebody who will spend untold amount of money in order to get that little extra 2% in order to chase that dragon of the sound that they're looking for. Now, why do I put these two definitions forward to you? It's because today I'd like to talk about a very sensitive subject, and I have an even more sensitive response to it, about what's better, vintage of valve tubes or vintage tubes versus new old stock or new tubes. I'd like to let me give you a few definitions on those, because those require a little explanation as well. A vintage tube is a tube that was manufactured in the heyday of tubes, the late 60s through the late 70s. A new old stock tube is a currently made tube, but it was created on that old equipment that used to create those old valves. And of course, a new valve is just any old manufacturer of a valve tubes. Most of them at this point come out of Russia and China. So that's just how that is. The earlier ones, the best of them came out of Great Britain. Now, I have two examples of two Mullards. Mullards was a British manufacturer, a huge company that had several factories throughout England that produced tubes for televisions and for radios and whatnot. This is what would be considered to be a vintage Mullard, circa around the 1970s. A very costly thing to obtain if you can't obtain them. This, of course, would be a new Mullard that is produced in Russia. So these two tubes, this vintage Mullard and this more modern produced Mullard made in Russia, as I said, have a huge cost difference between the two of them. This one will run me and will run you in the $100 to $115 range. This one right here will run you about $15.99. So obviously a 10 to 1 cost ratio between these two. And you have to ask yourself, is it worth it spending that extra money to get that little bit of extra sound out of your amp with these vintage tubes? And my answer to that is a surprising one. The answer to that is no, not really. It is not necessary. Is it showing basically, your insanity as far as gas is concerned? Yeah, it really is. Because to try to get that little extra 2% of sound out of your amp that might be produced by installing one of these vintage tubes, really the subtleties in terms of our audio perception of these two, it is there. You can hear a difference, but it is very slight. Can the ordinary listener hear the difference between those two tubes? Probably not. Now, I, as an audio professional, composing songs and recording in my studio for TV commercials and for albums that I produce, and composing for songs that I have to do with my regular work. Yeah, I am trying to squeeze that extra 2%. I do hear that difference, and it is important to me to achieve that. Is that a gas statement? Then yeah, it is a gas statement. Do I absolutely need it? No. Do I enjoy being able to have that subtle difference? Yes, I do. And again, this is going to come down to you as an individual. Again, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think the general public can hear those subtle differences, but certainly I put that forward as being up to you, whether or not you find that to be important or not. Also, on YouTube, you will hear you'll see A/B videos. You see a guy say, okay, we're going to do the old Mullard versus the new one. They'll mic up, depending upon their gear, they'll mic up an amp, they'll plug in their guitar, and they'll start wailing away. Let me tell you something right now. YouTube, because they compress their audio and video in order to upload it to their channel, they're going to squeeze out, in terms of audio, any of those subtle differences that you would hear between those two tubes. So these A/B tests, obviously I'm not going to do it today because I think it's a waste of time. If you're watching it on a handphone like this, you're not going to hear the difference. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. If you put on a good pair of headphones and you plug it in, even then the differences because of that compressed audio are so great, I really doubt that you'll hear the difference. So those are a waste of time. The only way that you're going to hear the differences in these two tubes is if you plug in inside your amp, inside of your room with your guitar, and you do the little A/B test yourself at home and hear those differences. You're not going to hear it through a YouTube video. We're not going to be doing that today. Is it worth, so at the end of the day, is it worth paying those price differences to get vintage tubes? Short answer is no. A long answer, it depends upon you and your applications. Are you going to be able to hear those differences on a YouTube video? No, you are not. The only way you're going to do it is if you do the recording, if you do the sound test in your rig, in your home yourself. That's the only way you're going to hear those differences. So that's it for today's show. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you like what you heard, if you like what you saw, hit the like button. If you got comments below, if you want to flame me about the A/B testing, please go ahead and do that. That's my opinion as an audio professional for 35 plus years now. If you want to join us and you like it so much you want to subscribe, I really appreciate it. For you who have already subscribed to us, thank you so much. I appreciate it very, very much. And I'll see you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.
Like the show? Well, show your support by subscribing and hitting the like button.